Whether it's a musical masterpiece or a beautifully crafted object, art and design is a human experience that almost everyone can appreciate. It has the power to invigorate you, reawaken dormant memories, or simply improve your quality of life. And this is exactly how artists and designers feel when their work isn't recognized. It takes time, effort, and a great deal of trial and error for creative people to make beautiful work. And it can be really discouraging when nobody cares about it. All of these creative achievements are nothing short of magic. These are all well-known masterpieces, but there are tens of thousands of other brilliant creative works that will never be heard, seen, or recognized. Why is there such a disparity between the creative cultural icons of our time and the artists and designers who are just as talented but remain overlooked? Why doesn't society value creativity? Creative people are some of the most mocked and disdained people in society, but also some of the most respected and celebrated, all at the same time. Our lives are significantly improved because of creative work. It's likely that we'd value creativity and craftsmanship as a society if we were actually encouraged to understand it. It's not that surprising that creativity isn't valued, but it actually gets even more complicated. Solving an open-ended design problem or coming up with an artistic masterpiece is like trying to solve a puzzle, except all of the puzzle pieces are black. The puzzle has no beginning or end, and some of the pieces that are critically important to seeing the whole picture are hidden in weird places. Some are in couch cushions, some of the pieces are up in a tree, others are down by the beach. It's incredibly inefficient and slow and laborious. Creativity is really disorganized and non-linear. This is the absolute opposite of the way that successful businesses run. Businesses rely on organization and order. Like I said before, the biggest measure of success for creative work in modern society is around how much money it makes or how well known it is. Creativity is incredibly difficult to make profitable because it's so unpredictable. Even if you do find that perfect design concept, the people commissioning your work will usually reject it. Mike in business development says it's an unproven idea. Karen from marketing says there's not enough sales data on it. It's not that they have bad intentions, it's just that they have different interests that are centered around making the company money in the safest way possible. So when a creative person sees a groundbreaking and novel idea, the administrators in the company just see a risky, unproven thread. But the thing is, great design and art is inherently polarizing. If everyone likes the work, it's probably not very good. When Michelangelo presented The Last Judgment, it was criticized for being too violent and having too much nudity. Michelangelo depicts himself right here. This sagging, deformed body is his self-portrait, and it represents the contempt he had for the patrons who commissioned him to do the work. An unproven idea is really, really risky. You can be cautious or you can be creative, but there's no such thing as a cautious creative. Failure is a huge part of creativity, but it's just not something that's tolerated in commercial settings. If you're a designer or an artist, think about how many ideas you come up with in a year that never actually make it past the concept phase. Thousands of thumbnail concepts and quick sketches or initial ideas get tossed in the garbage in search of something better. From a business standpoint, all of these early ideas are just inefficient failures. But from a creative standpoint, they are absolutely essential to getting to the final product. Because failure isn't really tolerated in commercial contexts, fear of failure tends to paralyze us all. And it's pretty much impossible to be creative if you're nervous or anxious. In fact, monetary incentives tend to be bad for coming up with creative ideas. According to 51 studies analyzed by the London School of Economics, financial incentives can result in a negative impact on overall performance. If you want to kill creativity, give people a reward for doing well. The main thing that gets me or you or any creative hired is their experience and expertise. But knowledge and experience is the enemy of creativity because you're already making many assumptions about how the project should work. It keeps us from seeing other decisions because we just go to the proven thing that worked in the past. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. I do this professionally all the time. This is the logical path if you're trying to be efficient after all. But I would argue that it's not very creative. The bottom line is that most professional work is about the bottom line. Are you making the company more money? If the answer is yes, figure out how to make a process out of it and do it over and over again. If not, you're fired. So brutal, but it's true. Companies and society say that they value innovation or divergent thinking, and companies may even have innovation programs, but very few of them will ever go through the insane risk of going past the idea phase. This is why most revolutionary creative work is done by people with nothing to lose. They're also usually outsiders. For example, Apple created the iPod after narrowly escaping bankruptcy. The movie Rocky was Sylvester Stallone's last-ditch effort to make it as a writer and an actor. Coco Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Kanye West, and many other rappers, every single one of these creative powerhouses started with no money, no prospects, and nothing to lose. I mean, sure, look, there's plenty of spectacular creative work out there that was made by people who weren't desperate, but most people won't take that leap if they're already comfortable. Even if you do make a successful creative work, that's all people are gonna wanna see. That's why there's like 7 Rocky movies or whatever at this point.
Yo, Adrian. Yo, Adrian. Yo, Adrian.
Rodney Mullen, for example, he's one of the most creative skateboarders to ever live. He invented dozens of tricks and he changed the way we approach the craft forever. He won 35 out of 36 contests over 11 years.
Winning isn't the word I want at once. The rest of the time you're just defending and you get into this like turtle posture, you know? Where you're not doing it. It usurped the joy of what I love to do because I was no longer doing it to create and have fun. And when it died out from under me, that was one of the most liberating things because I could create.
Once these people have something to lose, they slip into comfort and stop innovating. It's what their audience wants, and it's the safe bet for them. Success and recognition can destroy your creativity. And I don't really blame any creative people for going this route. I mean, I even do this a lot in my own work. After working so hard and finally striking gold, it can be really tough to just walk away from a successful formula. I know I might sound like a real pessimist right now. There is a silver lining to all this, but in order to come up with a solution, you have to fully understand the problem. Creativity not being valued is not just society's fault. There's a dark side to creative industries, and creative people are often their own worst enemy. Most of the time, we simply don't fit in and we know it. I'll give you an example from my own life. When I was in 2nd grade, the teachers would give students these little yellow star stickers for good behavior or completing an assignment or whatever else. The students would put the stickers on their desk as a sort of badge of honor, and the girl sitting across from me had like easily over 100 of them all sort of in this neat little row. And almost all of the other students had a bunch of star stickers on their desks too. I think I had about 7. The person across from me had well over 100 and I had 7.
Look at all the stars you have. I'll never be that good.
That was a very clear visual indicator to me. Like, I just did not fit into this system, and most creative people don't either. Society wants you to be a good little worker bee, and most creative people are renegade killer bees. Creativity sometimes feels more like a curse than a gift. You can't escape your own thoughts, and you want your ideas to be recognized, but a lot of the time, nobody cares. And that's not an easy thing to deal with. I know this sounds really negative, but I promise you'll be more optimistic by the end of the video. In order to address the problem, we need to understand it. Creativity isn't just forgotten in modern society, it's often maligned. Anytime you try to do something new or innovative, it's gonna be met with skepticism, ridicule, or even hostility. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I wanna give you a specific example. My friend Rafi saw Prince live in concert in 1981. And at that time, Prince was an up-and-coming artist, but he wasn't nearly as famous as he is now. The audience didn't know what to make of him though. He was this androgynous black man wearing bikini briefs and a trench coat, singing really explicit sexual lyrics. And he was singing his own unique blend of funk, soul, rock, R&B, and people just didn't really know where to place him. Was he Rick James? Was he Jimi Hendrix? Why was he dressed like that? And when people get confused about something new and creative, they ridicule it. And that's exactly what happened. The audience turned on Prince. This is actual audio from the concert. What you're hearing is a stadium of 94,000 people booing at one man in bikini briefs. They were throwing food, bottles, and shoes at him, and I can't even imagine how disappointing that must have been for Prince. I mean, he probably thought this was gonna be his big break, a chance to show the world his music, and he comes to find that everybody hates him and his work. What's most spectacular about this story is that Prince had the conviction and the courage to move forward anyway. He went on to become one of the most iconic musicians in modern history. One thing that people forget about Prince is that in spite of his outrageous lyrics and weird fashion sense, he's actually an incredibly talented musician. He played every single instrument by himself on his debut album, and he's a virtuoso guitarist. I think it's important to mention that because he wasn't all just about shock value. The thing is, he was very talented. He was super talented, but not all creative people are necessarily talented. If you love your craft, just keep doing it. Don't stop. You can't control anything about how your work is perceived, but you can control the amount of work that you create. Here's another thing. A lot of people will make a design or a piece of art and sit around and wait for it to take off. Do not wait. You either actively improve on it or you move on to the next project. Don't overanalyze. Don't worry, just go back to work and find ways to do it better the next time. It will remove all of the anxiety you have around your lack of success. This also does two things. Number one, you're improving your craft, and number two, you're increasing your chances of someone recognizing your skills. You're a creator, and creators create. Just like Prince or LCD Sound System, you need to press forward. Every artist and designer struggles with doubt, even the biggest players in the industry. Think about how much we would have lost if Prince had stopped playing music after his terrible concert in 1981, or if James Murphy stopped recording albums before writing his song, Losing My Edge. It all boils down to courage. That's what my mentor Rafi tells me, and I agree with it 100%. I've come very close to quitting design entirely a few times, but every time I'm about to quit, I just go back to focusing on things that I find exciting and new, and somehow things just sort of fall into place. Becoming a musician was probably one of the most enriching experiences of my entire life. There's value in creation for its own sake. There's nothing more life-affirming and courageous than the choice to create. It's the choice to make the world a little bit better, even if it's just for one person. Never forget that your work matters, even if it only matters to you.